Skyworks has become a steady dividend stock thanks to Apple. But can it grow? Skyworks Solutions has become a steady dividend producer thanks to Apple. Its radio chips can also go into client devices connected to AI through the machine internet. Skyworks isn't talking much about that. Let's dive in. If Apple walks away, what's left for Skyworks stock? Welcome to Timely Investment Research. Skyworks Solutions stock has long been seen as a cheap proxy for Apple, its largest customer. When sales are growing fast, analysts love to talk about Skyworks, which makes radio chips, getting away from that dependence. When growth is slow, it hubs that dependence tight. For Skyworks Solutions stock, 2023 was a tough year. It had $685 million in sales to Apple, representing 64% of revenue. About 85% of those chips went into the iPhone. The question for investors is whether that other 36% of sales is worth worrying about. A closer look at Skyworks stock. While Skyworks is a tech stock, you don't buy it as one. You buy it for the dividend. That dividend jumped from 38 cents share 5 years ago to 68 cents last November. If you are a long-term investor, that's your return. Shares in January were just 23% ahead of where they were in early 2019. We're talking about single-digit annual returns. Skyworks was much in vogue during the 2021 bull market. Shares traded at over $190 in the middle of that year, but you should have sold. It trades today closer to $105. The highs were marked by public statements that Skyworks was going beyond Apple. You still see such stories, but analysts no longer pay attention to them. In 2021, Skyworks bought Silicon Laboratories, hoping that chips for autos would reduce its Apple dependence. So far, they haven't. Will Apple leave? When they're not fretting about Skyworks' dependence on Apple, bears are worried about Apple walking away. Apple has long focused on supplying its own silicon. Capturing those profits let it grow its bottom line without growth in unit sales. Its focus has mainly been on replacing Intel. But with that work mostly complete, it's now going into its radio sets. This puts Skyworks in the crosshairs alongside Qualcomm and Broadcom. Personally, I downplay those threats. The margins for Broadcom and Qualcomm are much bigger than the 47% Skyworks earns. Qualcomm and Apple have been in court for years. Broadcom is known for pushing its proprietary advantages hard. All that, plus Skyworks' relatively small size, a market cap of $16.5 billion, tells me Apple should drop it down the priority list. Why buy Skyworks? Skyworks stock is a big favorite among institutions who have 84% of the common. Fundamentally, it's safe, a good long-term holding. For the September quarter, Skyworks had generally accepted accounting principles, operating income of $254 million, and earnings of $1.52 per share on revenue of $1.22 billion. For the December quarter, it expects similar results, making the 68-cent per share dividend safe. What most excited investors last year was $1.6 billion of free cash flow, up 76% from a year ago. CEO Liam Griffin emphasized design wins for Android 5G phones and Wi-Fi 7 base stations. It was enough to keep analysts on side. There are currently 24 of them, with 9 saying buy it and 2 saying sell. The bottom line on Skyworks stock. Nowhere in that quarterly release does Griffin mention AI. That's interesting because much of Skyworks' non-Apple growth should come from client devices. Medical devices, wearables, factory robotics, and autos are all subject to AI hype. Growth today is coming from managing fleets of client devices in hospitals, factories, and on battlefields. What I call the machine internet can orchestrate the work of entire institutions, software doing things people have never been capable of. The fact that Skyworks analysts remain focused on the iPhone is telling. If AI isn't growing in areas where it should grow, might the whole hype machine go off the rails? Skyworks stock may not just be a proxy for Apple's problems, but for AI's as well. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Timely Investment Research. We're so glad you did. If you found value in today's video, please give us a like, hit that bell icon to never miss an upload, and hey, don't forget to subscribe.